Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I wanted to focus on two elements, two properties that we can set in the VBE Editor to improve our development process and experience. Let's look at the default behavior. If we just insert a standard module, by default, this is what you get. And then you can go and do something such as, some message, and then we could go debug.print this message. Now, in the first case here, if we try to compile it, Access or whatever program you're in, the VBE Editor is happy. According to it, you have done what you had to do. That said, best practice dictates this is not accurate, and that your variables should always be declared, always, without exception. So you should have, at the very least, that, but realistically, you should have this. You should be declaring your variable and the type. And we don't, it's easy as developers to forget variables and, omit declaring them. And this is why there's something called up here an option explicit declaration that you can put in place. And this, if you were to comment this out, for instance, when you compile, it will flag the fact that this hasn't been declared. Variable not defined. And that informs you that you need to have this line in place, then it compiles. Okay? So the first thing we want to do is solve this whole issue with the option explicit. The second thing we want to look at is errors. When we make a mistake, we get by default all these pop-ups, and in general, they serve no purpose. And it's always the same. It's almost like a harassment, and you have to just come and click OK to continue working. It's a waste of time. We don't want that. We don't need that. So what we want to do is get rid of these pop-ups, these useless pop-ups. So we want to enforce option explicit, and we want to get rid of the harassing pop-up error messages. To do so, you go under Tools, Options, and what we want on the Editor tab is to uncheck the auto syntax check. So that's going to get rid of the pop-up error messages. And we want to check the require variable declaration. That will put in place the option explicit when you create new modules. It won't change any of the existing ones. Those you still have to update manually, but it will rectify moving forward any further development you do. This, in reality, should be checked off by default for Microsoft. I don't know why in all these years they still haven't done that. They haven't enforced it, but this should be done everywhere. The auto syntax, if you want to stick with the pop-up errors, it's debatable, but this required variable should be checked off in every single VBA editor. Now let's look at inserting a new module. As you can see, by default now, it is adding the option explicit entry. So unlike previously, where we had to do it manually, if we take this guy, let's say, put it here, now when we make a mistake on purpose and we go elsewhere, we don't get that pop-up anymore. So we can just continue to work. It's still going to be highlighted in red. So VBE is still telling you there's a problem. And I think we're intelligent enough to recognize that and then correct it, right? But it's not going to give you all these pop-ups over and over and over as you're developing. It allows you to work freely, and it allows you to have errors and keep development, whatever you're going to do, and come back to it at a later point in time. It also, regardless of if you're displaying the error or not, the pop-up, it still won't compile. It's still there when you do your compilation check. It's still going to flag the issue. So you've still got safeguards in place. It's just going to facilitate, streamline your development process and stop all these pop-ups for no reason. So just remember, tools, options, the first two. Uncheck auto syntax check and check off the required variable declaration. my quick tip for improving your VBA, VBE programming experience. Hope this helps, and we'll see you in the next video. If you don't mind, like, share, subscribe. Be greatly appreciated. Take care, everyone.